Nate Streeter, StreetSmart Marketing, Paperboy Printing and Distribution, here with Steve Lundgren.
Hey folks, how you doing?
We're continuing our review of the book, The Pumpkin Plan by Mike
Michalowicz.
Yep, Michalowicz. And we thought some of the ideas that Mike had about staffing were really valuable. Again, some of these ideas you guys have seen probably in E-Myth and Rockefeller Habits and also the book Traction. I think all three of those books were books that came to mind for me with these concepts, but they're still good ones. And there's some particular things that Mike talks about here that I like the way he presents them.
Right.
And he maybe even 1 Minute Manager to maybe throw another book on the pile here.
Let's throw the whole library
Yeah,
at it.
so I mean, I think all four of those books in some ways talk about these things. But let's just jump right in.
Looks like we got an org chart here. What's that about?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake is they don't have an org chart or they don't come up with any org chart.
There you go.
But really they think about organizationally, they think about things based on what they currently have. Not so much, or currently who works for them.
Yeah.
Not so much about what they want to be. And that's a big problem. And you know, when you guys all come to me and you say, oh, Nate, I've been at 300,000 or $1 million or $2 million worth of sales for 5 years. My sales are flat. This can be part of that. You
Right.
haven't really conceived how your organization could operate perhaps differently than it currently does.
They need a more forward-thinking posture on that.
Exactly. So kind of practically, what does that mean? Well, if you're just a little business, you may fill your name in for all these things initially. And I just want to be clear, too, your org chart might not look anything like this. Don't force yourself into this sort of standard. Don't worry about that. It can look like anything. What it just needs to do is empower you to grow.
Right.
And to get to the point, like we've talked about a million times, where you're working on it, not in it. And where you're working in your core competencies. Because eventually you might realize that you're terrible at operations. Well,
Right.
that would be the first place you'd want to probably hire somebody as you grow.
Yeah.
Or maybe perhaps your brother-in-law who's been doing operations is terrible. Or he's been doing operations in human resources, God knows why. I mean, I've run into so many different, businesses where they've got just crazy different, what different people are doing. And it can, when you draw this out, so just almost ignore who's doing what now. Draw out how your business actually functions, right?
So it needs to be sort of reverse engineered. You need to think about where you want to be in the future and then think backwards about then what org chart would make that work.
Right. And also just how do things work? Like you have to have a certain amount of ideology about leadership, like who's going to be on the top and how, and then also just how do things happen? Do you, usually if you have staff, you're going to have finance and human resources and administrative. Usually if you have, most all businesses have some kind of sales, marketing, advertising.
Right.
And you have to have some way to actually produce the product or service. So usually there's some kind of operation. So, this org chart usually in some way is going to resemble it. But yeah, think about where you want to be, not where you currently are, who's currently doing tasks. Sort of just ignore all that and create something. Then that can really be an outline for how you can grow into the next portions of your business.
So don't marry your business to individuals or even job tasks. Think about what you want it to be in the future and reverse engineer something to model that.
Right. The second point that Mike does a pretty good job, I like the way he talks about this differently than all those other books that I just mentioned. A lot of books talk about empowering staff. And I can tell you with my first business, maybe you can recall, Steve, because I think you worked for me for some of those years.
Yeah.
I felt like most days all I did was put out fires.
Yeah, there you go.
It was like, I had all these people that were coming to me with all their problems every day. And perhaps some of you guys can relate to that. And I remember days where I would dread coming to work, basically, because everybody on my staff just looked at me to solve problems for them.
Yeah.
And, now there's something, to be said about that. I mean, sometimes a fresh set of eyes and, being able to help different people, there's nothing to take away from any of that.
Right.
But what you definitely want to be able to do is empower your staff to make their own decisions. And Mike has some interesting ways he talks about that in his book, I thought.
Yeah.
One of the things he has all his staff do is have them ask 3 key questions when evaluating anything. So does this serve my unique selling proposition or my unique, however way you want to,
for the company?
Right. Does it preserve that and serve it?
Right.
If the answer to that, okay, so that's the first question you ask. Does this opportunity, problem, whatever, serve my top clients? So again, the whole book is about, focusing on your top clients. So that's the second question.
Right.
And then the third question is, does this solution, opportunity, whatever, further enhance or maintain our profitability? If the answer to all three of those questions is yes, there's no reason to have a discussion.
Right.
Just do it.
So they have, at that point, they have permission to do it.
Yeah, there's no, you don't need permission. I mean, this is obvious. If it's going to make us, if it better positions us with our customer, it fits within our current USP strategy, and it contributes to our profitability in a way that's consistent with where we're at now, you don't need to talk to me about it.
Right. Let's go for it.
Exactly. So the other thing that I don't think it's Mike that talks about this, but is important is don't ever come to me with a problem that you haven't at least thought through a solution, and have some ideas for solutions.
Give me some options.
Yeah. So if you haven't gotten to that point, there's no discussion to be had. You need to come up with some solutions, or have tried a bunch of different things and they didn't work. And so oftentimes I've heard entrepreneurs even say that eliminates half the conversations right there. If you require everybody to, sometimes people say they require their staff to have tried 3 things, or give me options of 3 things.
Right.
And then it will be so brutally obvious to them what to do in that case that there's no discussion needed.
Don't even need to ask.
Right. So, but this is all about empowering staff. I'm not trying to eliminate communication here.
Right.
But, the more you empower your staff, the more chance you're going to have success. And you're not going to dread going to work every day because all you have to do is put out fires.
Yeah, and it doesn't drain all your energy. You can think about building your business, working on your business instead of just working in it.
Yep.
If you're trying to, if you're really forced to micromanage everything because other people aren't managing what they're supposed to be doing. Or I like the old sign that I saw on a wall in a business one time that said, if there were more self-starters around here, the boss wouldn't need to be a crank. And it's kind of humorous, and there's something, there's something to that. If people can take their own initiative to get things done, then the boss doesn't have to ride them to town.
But the truth is, every human being, or most human beings, aren't self-starters. I mean, you and I have talked about that before, Steve. I mean, see, there's nothing wrong with a human needing structure.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say 5% or maybe 98, really high percent of human beings need structure.
Yeah.
And, it's your job as the boss to give that to them, to empower them. These are a couple creative ways to help you with that.
Exactly.
So, all right, we look forward to talking to you more next time. You do, go ahead.
So this is part of a series. We're right in the middle of the
Yep.
Pumpkin Plan as a book review. So if you hadn't seen the previous 4 or another 4 to come.
Yep. We got more coming. If you want help with this, you need help with your organizational chart, you want to empower your employees, you feel like you're running around, just putting out fires all day, give us a call, send us an email, connect with us on Twitter. We're here to help.